In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products?
Our media product uses the tried and tested methods of creating atmosphere, such as like a dark setting for areas that build up suspense, or a long shot to draw isolation. I think that we were challenged by the conventions of media products by filming using two cameras, one that the characters are obviously aware of as they're filming using it. We referred to this as the amateur camera. The second camera was the conventional film camera that the characters were unaware of. We used this to get in the shots that the amateur camera couldn't feasibly do. We referred to this as the pro camera.
How does your media product represent particular social groups?
Our media product only really represents one social group, which is the working class. This is because all of the characters in our production are members of that group. They are, however, part of an adolescent subculture. We represent this group as friendly but aggravating their friends. We also represent them as slightly rebellious and, out wandering the streets at night.
What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why?
We feel that the best media institution to distribute our product would be the social network YouTube or Facebook, as it is only like 5 minutes long, and these allow us to distribute it to a large amount of people, free for both parties, and potentially reach more members of our target demographic, which is people between the ages of 15 and 30 who enjoy horror/suspense films.
How did you attract/address your audience?
We showed whoever we could during our free periods, basically, and we posted the video on Facebook and YouTube, like I said we were going to do previous question, and we received mostly favourable feedback, with some constructive criticism thrown in from a few people, mostly those doing media studies or moving image arts. What have you learned about technologies from the process of constructing this product?
We've learned a great deal more about software than we did about hardware, I think. Although we did all learn how to efficiently operate two cameras at once with a tripod. The software was a different story though. We were using iMovie for the majority of the editing, but we used Final Cut Pro to include the viewfinder effect in the amateur camera shots, which was a challenge in itself. We also tried to experiment with GarageBand to come up with sort of pieces that sort of fit our piece, and Ryan did create one that was pretty energetic, and I think it fit the chase scene rather well, but unfortunately it was a bit too long, so we didn't include it in the final piece.
Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learned in the progression from it to the full product?
The preliminary piece was of a much lower standard than a finished product. With this, it was a massive difference. We weren't sure what we were doing with our preliminary piece. We were sort of just trying what we thought was common sense, but with this we were using a lot more professional techniques. It was definitely a learning experience as well. We learned that even when finished filming to hold off on the haircuts for a week or so in case we need to refilm a scene, so I was doing that. We also learned how best to get certain angles and how to look out for possible continuity errors such as clothing changes or anything like that. We learned to be mindful of the setting and when other people might have been in the shot, and we were trying to use the most secluded places so we wouldn't be disturbed. We applied all these lessons to the final piece, and I think it shows in the great difference of the final piece that we've done now and the previous preliminary coursework piece.
Who are you and what was your role in the group?
My name is Paddy Rooney and I played Nathan. I was the main character in the film. I came up with the basic plot of using a blogger online. I came up with the idea of using two cameras, the amateur camera and the pro camera. And I also did a lot of the blog work for trailers and sort of used those to integrate ideas from the theme of some of the horror films that we watched and integrated them in the art piece to try and make them better.
I'm Connor Hughes and I played Aaron in our piece. I was also the main cameraman for the pro camera for any scenes where I wasn't involved. We kind of took it in turns if I was involved. Anyway, what I rewrote the last scene of the script. Ryan was off one day and we needed it done. I also, as Ryan said, edited a scene. When I wasn't working on the piece, I was responsible for updating our blog with our progress. And when I wasn't working on the piece, I had to look for music. It had to be royalty free because, let's face it, we can't pay to use music. We had no budget. So yeah, we found a good website for this. It was recommended by some of our peers.
And I did the majority of the script work, you know, with the exception of a couple of things that Connor and Paddy did. And then I did the huge chunk of the storyboarding, fleshing it out along with the plot. Well, that's the script. But I also did the timekeeping for getting everybody organised to go, because there was 5 of us. And then 2 of them weren't even at our school, we just needed them to act, but they were quite, you know, cooperative, and it was really good. I also did the editing. Connor and Paddy also did like a small scene themselves, but the majority of it was mine. I enjoyed making our piece. As coursework goes, it wasn't bad, you know. There were a couple of problems we came across during film. Well, not just during film, during the making of it. Casting was our first problem, as we needed 5 characters. Obviously the 3 of us would play 3 roles, and then we need 2 more. But we were able to overcome that one quite easily. We just, you know, asked around, found a few friends, you know, who would do it and show up and things like that, you know, reasonably reliable. The next problem we found was working with the 2 cameras. That was awkward enough to get used to, but once we knew what we were doing, you know, we were able to set one camera up and then have Paddy, he was the vlogger, he was filming with it. We would just film him filming, if you follow me. It's not as awkward as I'm making it out to be. The next problem then was, it was a disgusting one to do. It was, I played Alex, I was meant to get bitten. I had this guy who played Chris, kind of up against a tree, and he was going to bite me, and we thought we would be able to film that, but trying to film it was an absolute nightmare. We didn't even have blood or anything, it was red sauce, but we were trying to get the hand, right, my hand, up against him. This is him here. And then he was biting down and his spit everywhere. It was disgusting, so we just scrapped that idea and instead went with you know, an ominous cut off. I think that worked quite well, to be honest. Our next problem was organising the times to meet. That was mainly my job, and because I knew everybody. I had everybody's number and that sort of thing, but there were 5 of us, so it was quite awkward, but aside from 1 or 2 members of the group, we were all fairly reliable, able to show up at the right times and able to get into places. As you know, wasn't easy, but it was doable, and we eventually got through it. And then we were quite lucky with the weather, to be honest, because one of our scenes we were filming outside in Lady Dixon, and the weather was consistent. It was really, really lucky. On the strengths, well, it was really easy to film. Then once we laid it out well in the script, and I think the script was very well laid out, we were able to follow it pretty closely. There were a couple of things we changed, but we changed them for, you know, the bite thing. It was stupid. I also left the last scene we filmed. We're going to have like a door swing open, but not actually on camera, and then one of the characters would turn around and say they saw this person who wasn't actually going to be there, Chris. But it looked really stupid as well, and it didn't fit the film, so we just cut that out and went with the colour bars instead. Because we were using an amateur camera, it just kind of cut off, and then dropped. The next strike then was the software. The software, we used fairly basic software, to be honest. It was just iMovie on the Mac, but it was easy to adapt to and it was easy to use, so we were able to utilise that quite well. We were able to change the audio, the video. We were able to slice things pretty closely. We were able to put in transitions where we needed transitions, and we were able to include like music, which we got off websites, you know, royalty free stuff, and it just worked really well for us. And we were able to put in, you know, effects to make, like, we had a flashback scene. We were able to put, like, change the colouring of it so it looked more like a flashback rather than just a normal scene. We did 3 locations. There was Lady Dixon, then Jonathan's house and Connor's house, and that worked pretty well for us. We were able to use a variety of settings and they looked different from each other, so it was, you know, travel time and time difference. It was pretty good. It worked really well with the piece. spreading the time across and showing how much time passed in line. You know, characters, you didn't know what happened to them, so that worked well with the horror suspense kind of thing. And the last strength, I think, it honestly is the music. It was quite good. It matched really well, especially the opening music. It just really fits the kind of emotion we were going for.